Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Blakely. I'm from St. Louis, AT&T. I'm here for the YMTF program. I'm one of the co-chairs this year. And we want to welcome you to the Brother to Brother panel. Am I my brother's keeper too? Keep on, keep it on. Just wanted to let you know, last year we did this. It was very successful, we felt like. You have a lot of gentlemen here who are consultants who felt an obligation and need to share information with you candidly about things that are specific to you. Young men here at UAPB, the things you face, the things you may face going forward in your careers. And we are our brother's keeper. It's our job to be there to help you, to offer you that assistance, to offer you that advice, that information, to help you through some of the obstacles you may run into. But as well, to be here to answer questions for you about things that mean something to you, things that are about you. So we want everyone to feel very free and open about any questions that you have. We're going to do the best we possibly can to provide answers for you. Serious, hardcore answers, okay? The joke is over. This is for real right here. And we take a great deal of pride in it. We're going to ask that everyone stay respectful in the questions that they ask, in the manner in which they ask them. Pay attention and be attentive to the people who are speaking. We're going to see what all we can get out of this today, okay? Everybody agree with that? Okay. All right, all right. What I'd like to do now is take the opportunity to introduce our four-person panel. As I introduce each of them, I'd like them to give a comment about themselves or about something they feel you should take away from this panel discussion today. So to my immediate left, I have Benny Bowers, Lieutenant Benny Bowers, retired Lieutenant Benny Bowers, I'm still hating on him about that retirement part. From the Michigan State Police. Want to say something, Benny?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And first of all, I'd like to thank the committee for asking me to participate. I'm a graduate of University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. I played 4 years of football here, and I was proud of that. We never beat Jackson State, but we played them hard. But the SWAC wasn't the SWAC that it is now. I tell the story all the time that every time we played a SWAC school, there was always someone on that team that was going in the draft, not as a free agent, but was going in the draft. So it was a high quality of athletics that I experienced when I was here. What I would like for you to take from this experience is the relationship building that you're going to have with the men, the professional men that are in this room, that are committed to UAPB, have committed their time and their passion and their concern about your success, because it's a little twist to the game out there right now. And we've experienced it. We've got some bruises from it, and we're here to share those experiences with you. Thank you.
All right. Next to Benny, we have Mr. Excel Lafayette Jr., the Director of Supplier Development for Walmart stores.
Thanks, everyone. Again, I'm Excel Lafayette Jr. with Walmart. Been with the company 18 years, but it's been a great opportunity for me. And one of the things I'd like to think that we'll take away from this is again, building relationships. Go away with an open mind, because the things you do today may not be the things you do tomorrow, and take those experiences and just grow from them.
All right, thank you, Excel. To his immediate left, Danny Massey, District Manager, Social Security Administration.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Danny Massey, and I'm a graduate of UAPB. It's a great opportunity for me personally to be able to come back here and to contribute and offer something that you all could take away from this that could help you, even if it could just jar something in your mind to help you get started on your career path. So I'm hoping that in this process that you can take from this something that will get you ready to start getting your career on path, be that changing a major or paying attention to your major or going to talk to your advisor or making sure that you're registered at Career Services. Something that will inspire you to get serious about your careers. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. And on the far end of the table, we have Mr. Lee Allen, the CEO for Diversified Business Network.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. I've been coming to UAPB for about 17 years, participating in YMTF. I am not a graduate of an historically black college or university. My wife is. But I've always been committed in helping students and faculty and growing and developing. And that's why I keep coming back year after year. If there's anything at all that I can help you with or you can leave with today, is that you be impressed that these individuals came on their own nickel from all over the country to care enough to bring you a message so you can avoid landmines and mistakes that we may have made to help you be successful. So when you get to the top and become successful, I want you to remember where you came from and that we sat in front of you X numbers of years ago, and you can reach down and bring someone else up. And that's what it's going to be about.
All right, thank you, Lee. Again, my name is Kevin Blakely. Although I'm not going to be fielding any questions, as a facilitator, the takeaway I'm hoping that you're going to get from this is a comfort in having conversation with these black professionals that we're putting before you today. I want you to feel comfortable coming and talk to these gentlemen and asking them the things that you need to know. We all ask somebody stuff to get where we are, okay? We want to make sure you feel just as comfortable asking those questions and getting the answers you need, may not want, but the answers you need in order for you to keep going the direction you need to be headed. The format for this afternoon, I'm going to provide a list of questions that I will be directing to each of the panelists, give them an opportunity to respond. At the end of these questions, we're also going to be opening up the microphones for you to present questions of your own. So if you have questions that you don't see get addressed here, please don't hesitate to come up to the microphones at the end of the program and present the questions there. We'll have lines on both sides to be able to do that. In addition, I'm actually going to start off. We have some trivia questions. I want to just make sure we get you guys involved. So what I'm going to do is pose a question to you now. And what I'm going to ask, someone raise your hand if you have the answer. We don't want you to shout the answer out, okay? It's just some statistics and facts that we happen to know regarding our people here, okay? My first question, which HBCU has had an impressive run of enrolling more National Achievement Scholars to its school than the ranked major colleges and universities? This college or university ranked first in 1992, 1995, 1996, each time beating Harvard, and has been among the nation's top 5 recruiters since 1988. Is it Tuskegee University, University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, Morehouse College, or Florida A&M University? That was the first thing, and back there with the red and white tie.
Florida A&M.
That is correct. That's good. Put your hands together, brother. Got some information. And we don't mind giving away things here. Right. That was a $10 gift card to Walmart for those of you who didn't see what I gave you. It works for me. All right, let's get on with our questions to the panelists, please. My first question I present to Excel. What do you recommend for a student seeking to be an entrepreneur rather than working for an employer?
Well, one of the things I would say that it's okay. It's okay to have a goal to be an entrepreneur versus working for an employer, because sometimes, everybody, you just can't work with everybody, but also you just got to understand there is a process to be an entrepreneur. If you're going to be a legitimate business owner or businessman or business person, what have you, there is a process. And again, developing a business plan, and that in itself is an education experience. So understanding what that process is, understanding who your customer is, understanding the service that you're going to provide for customers, because if you don't have customers, in most cases, you really don't have a business, because you're in business to make a profit, right? So that's what I would say right now.
Mr. Allen, if you could address that as well.
Sure, I'd like to assist in that. I worked 34 years in the federal government. I started my home business about 12 years ago while I was working with the federal government. I've averaged about $22,000 or more a year on my part-time business. I'm retired now. Now, don't go into business for the wrong reasons. Some people say, I want my own time. I want to get up and go when I want to. That's not a reason to go into business, because once you make mistakes in business, your reputation is all you got. So you got to deliver, okay? And you got to be professional. I put in more hours on my home business than I did with my regular job. You need to develop a business plan. You need a business plan would include funding. It would include marketing ideas. I suggest you begin small, because banks ain't giving away money now. So if your business requires overhead dollars, then you need to find a rich cousin or a lottery ticket. Because businesses, you don't have a lot of security to go to the banks and say, I need $50,000 to start my business. So you're going to need either someone to co-sign. So that's why I say you start small and take courses in bookkeeping and finance, because those are the kind of courses that are going to help you as you move your business along. And do research on the competition of your product. Is there demand for your product? Am I trying to start my business in the right demographic area? I mean, you're not going to start a fried chicken place next to churches in Kentucky. You want to go into a market area where they want chicken and you don't have that kind of competition. You're not going to open up a restaurant that's going to be catered to just single guys or single women. You want to open up a restaurant that caters to a family. So you want to look at the demographics. What's the family ratio in this area? Is there a school system? So you see where I'm coming at? So you got to do your homework, and you got to look up. I met with a student this afternoon for about an hour and a half who's starting his business. He already started his business. I like his business concept. So I gave him ideas how to expand his business. I gave him some ideas. He was really smiling when he left me. And guess what he's done wrong? He didn't start the business. He was already doing the business. So he's got some homework to do to catch up on tax breaks. Because a lot of things he was doing, he should have been marking down so he can get tax breaks. Okay, the mileage, the materials he's buying. So those are just a few things that I wanted to comment about that. So being an entrepreneur is a good thing, and I want to see more students take risk in that area.
I'd like to just follow up with something that I'm not a business person, but my career has been one for 25 years with the Michigan State Police, is working with young people like yourselves in urban communities. I want to put a spin on this if I could. This is what I've observed. Your culture, as of roughly 82, has been marketed across the world. Your culture in reference to the way you dress, the way you wear your hair, your music, the way you talk, the way you speak, the way you swag, around the world. I would estimate it's close to $80 billion or something.
Easy.
Just who you are has been marketed around the world. If you know what I'm talking about, raise your hand. Around the world. I was in a Chinese food restaurant a couple of weeks ago, and a young man was sitting in the restaurant, an Asian fellow. He had his hat cocked to the right, and he was bopping to some music. In 1984, I was asked to research gangs for the state of Michigan. And so I went to a conference, and Dr. Ben Taylor, who's a renowned gang researcher in Michigan, he says, "Benny, you're not familiar with Master P?" I didn't know who Master P was at the time. He said, "Master P is getting ready to change the game." I said, "Who is Master P?" And I think Master P changed the game, didn't it? So don't think you have to look too far as far as the creativity around being an entrepreneur. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joe. I have my next question. I'd like to direct it to Mr. Massey, please. What is the most difficult challenge a student will face when they begin their career journey?
I would just say that making the transition from college to your career I wouldn't underestimate that. You know, here you kind of have some things that you fall back on, and it's not as detrimental to you. It could affect your grades, but it may not necessarily change one way or the other. But in a career path, you know, some of those mistakes that you make could haunt you for the rest of your career, and it could even possibly land you out of a job. So I guess those are kind of like the consequences and results. Another thing is trying to learn the environment that you're going into. You're used to being a free spirited type of person, able to go as you please and do the things that you like to do and say what you like to say, but it's not always like that in the workplace. And your personal identity has to come in check, so to speak. You have to learn that culture of the environment that you're going in, or you won't survive. So your personal biases and your personal traits, no one is asking you to compromise your values, but at the same time, you have to make sure that you conform to that working environment or you won't survive. So that's one of the biggest challenges that I see going into the workplace, is making sure that you understand the culture that you're getting involved in. You still can be yourself, but you don't want to stand out in a negative way.
Could you address that as well?
Real quickly, I agree with everything my fraternity brother just indicated. In reference to the challenge, what I've been exposed to is it's difficult for you to humble yourselves going in. That's a very, very difficult thing for you to do after receiving a degree and realizing that this degree is going to make me a millionaire, and I'm excited, my family's excited, and now I've got a job. Don't they know at this job that I'm the smartest person that just walked in the door? Somebody needs to tell them. But that can be a huge hurdle for you to realize that you need to definitely humble yourself, and it'll take you a long way. It took me a long time to realize that in my line of work, that I needed to humble myself. If I had humbled myself, my probationary period as I entered law enforcement would have been a better transition for me. But I came from a tough community. I was a tough kid at 26 years old. I went to a historically black college. I grew up in an all-black community. Now I'm in a predominantly white male environment. I mean, I didn't watch professional baseball. I was watching basketball, so I didn't want to talk about baseball. And so my senior officer made it very, very difficult for me to transition through my probationary period. But if I had humbled myself and got beyond my personal biases, possibly, my transition to an easier probation period would have been easier for me. So humble yourselves. Understand that it's a gradual period. I've been working with this young man since we've been here. He asked me today. He's got all of the answers for his career, absolutely all the answers. But he just needs to be patient. Be patient. To get to this point in your life where I am, or where this great man is, or where this great man is, it takes time. It takes time. So you have to be patient and just humble yourself. You've got a great start. You're here at UAPB. You're going to be educated in the workforce, but just be patient.
One of the things I like to add is understand there change is constant. Change is constant. No matter when you come out of here, and like Brother Benny said, humbling yourself. Understand you're in a totally different environment where they rule the yard, if you will. But understanding that once I get in, once I prepare myself, once I acclimate, because again, we are a culture who can acclimate. We can operate in any area, in any area. So learning the culture, like they talked about, but also one of the biggest challenges is if you're not prepared. You know, that's why you're in college now, going to these classes, going to these seminars to get prepared. So you guys want to make sure you take advantage of this, because when you think, hey, that class was hard, this time in my life is hard, guess what? When you graduate and when you leave here, that's when the game starts. That's when the work starts, and it's for real. You know, it's gonna be feast or famine. You know, if you're doing it right, you get to live better. If you're not, you're going to struggle the rest of your life. But also, one of the things that is, when I talk about change is constant, I've been working for Walmart. I'm in my 18th year. I've had 5 different jobs. In my last job, I've been in there 14 years in my current job. But my job has evolved 5 different times. I'm in my 5th time changing what my job is. And so when they talk about how I was able, and my team was able to transform, we went from an all manual process of working with minority-owned suppliers, just handing us packets of information, how to do business with Walmart, to a automated process where we're dealing with companies all across the world where they can go online, click a button, send a picture of their information, and it'll come to my office or somebody on my team, and we process that information. So it's not just, send me this packet from Little Rock and it's going to sit on my desk for the next 2 weeks, because sometimes it'll come in at 9 o'clock, and 9:20 it's already gone to the buyer. And maybe at 9:30 the buyer's either decided yes or no, or let me think about it, but we allow them some time to determine whether or not it's going to be an item that's going to go on the shelves. But that's here just in the U.S. And we do the same thing for items, for companies that are in China. They send us information, but understanding, if we have not evolved from a manual process, and again, taking advantage of technology, you guys are way more technical savvy than I am, but understanding you have some advantages and you got skill sets that you can take into the business. But change is constant. Change is constant. And when you get into a situation or an environment, understand that company is going to change. If it does not change, it will die. It will die. We had to change as Walmart, being we're in our 50th year, right, Alan? We're going in our 50th year. And if you would have looked at, just 15, 20 years ago, looking at the top 10, top 20 retailers, we were probably there, but we probably were not number one. There was a place called Sears, Kmart, Target, and all those others. They were number one. Now, you look at that list today, totally different. Totally different. And some of those name brands that you knew years ago as kids growing up, they don't even exist anymore as businesses. So change is constant, being prepared to transform yourself even within an organization.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, you want to?
I'll be quick, because I know you have some more questions. A degree helps you get in the door. We said that last night in the rap session. A degree is not going to guarantee you success. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Okay? So many people think that I got my paper, I got it made. But guess what? You got to learn. Your survival skills that you grew up with in your neighborhoods, everyday life here on campus, and your technical skills, you've got to combine those to help you survive in that organization. Somebody already talked about the culture. You've got to show that you can adapt. And more importantly, you got to prove that you're competent every day. All of you. We black folks, people of color, you under a microscope, and it ain't gonna change. Okay? So yes, there are gonna be many things that are unfair to you in the workplace, but you've got to adapt and you got to pick and choose what battles to fight and which ones to let go. But your survival skills, rely on those and mesh them with your technical skills, and you're gonna be just fine.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Okay, we're going to put a question out to the crowd again. Here we go. Looking for hands, please. What is the percentage of African American students attending mainstream or traditionally white colleges in America? I'll repeat the question. What is the percentage of African American students attending mainstream or traditionally white colleges in America? Okay. Your options are 50%, 40%, 80%, or 60%. 40% was the man's answer. That is incorrect. A man back there in the back, white t-shirt. Stand up, sir. I can hear you. 60%. That is the correct answer. So that 60% of American students attend traditional white colleges in America. Appreciate your involvement there, sir. For the next question, I would like to pose to Excel Lafayette. What are some typical challenges? Yes, sir.
Can I just ask, what's the relevance of that question? Is 60% of African Americans attending white colleges? Can maybe the panel can answer that for me?
Okay, ask the question.
I said, what is the relevance? 60% of African Americans, male, attending white universities. That's the answer. So what is the relevance?
You can start. You can start.
I mean, maybe somebody in the audience.
My opinion would be that this just shows you that they have initiative now, that a lot of black students are trying to go towards higher education, what you call prominent schools, to show that they just as qualified as not just sticking with black institutions, that they can do just as well in a black and a white institution just as well as, they can compete. I just feel that they compete, they show.
I would venture to say that there was a time when we could not attend those universities, okay? And for some reason, we're leaving home to go somewhere else because they've opened that door. Doesn't necessarily mean it's time to leave home. You don't walk through every door that's opened up. It depends on what's on the other side there for you. I'm not placing a judgment on the quality or content of what's through that door, but you know what you got here, okay? When you couldn't go somewhere else, there was a place here for you that nurtured you and took care of you. We don't want you to forget that in the process. I was one of those people that walked through that door. I didn't actually graduate from the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. However, I realized and recognized what this university has to offer. And I can honestly say, although I don't regret any decisions I've made, I've learned from them all. Had I to do it over again, I would make different decisions. And one of those decisions would have been to stay right here. Mr. McAlpine, I know you wanted to respond.
Okay.
Can you tell me who you are, please, sir?
Okay, I'm Jimmy McAlpine with USDA. I'm the EEO manager. I do workforce analysis with the USDA. To address your question, Mr. Pierre, the relevance of that question is that since we are here this week with the Youth Motivation Task Force, we're looking at keeping our young men with the retention level while they're here at the university. Not so much necessarily about why they're not attending the HBCUs. One of the reasons why that they don't attend HBCUs, which is a study done by the National Association for Educators, was that most of their introduction and most of their things that they're told in their head is that if they go to a predominantly white institution, they'll get a better education, they will get a job, your door opened up for you wider. In some cases that may be true. If you went to Harvard, where they got an inroad to where you would go in there. But I would challenge most people, if you, since you are HBCU graduate and haven't you, during that time, met with people, worked with people that may have went to school at Cornell, University of Michigan, and you were just as prepared. It all comes down to your how you apply yourself. That paper gets you in the door, but how you apply yourself and how you are while you here, what you take advantage of, all these social programs that they put in the education talking about disadvantage, they start sticking those buzzwords in there. That word get in your head and you start thinking, well, maybe something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. You just need to step the game up.
Mike Washington, University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Just to kind of also add to some of the answers that was given, I think, how many of you know the story of the lion and the gazelle? Okay, basically in Africa, there's a story of a lion and a gazelle, and I haven't refreshed my head with it, but if the slowest gazelle, and correct me those that know the story, must run faster than the fastest lion. If not, he will be eaten. Then if you don't, if the fastest lion don't run as fast as the slowest gazelle, he won't eat. Well, the HBCUs, if we don't make, constantly remember this at one point in time, because I have colleagues that at one point in time, this is the only place blacks could go was to HBCUs. Well, that's not the case anymore. When we step off this campus, when we're promoting YMTF and other things that we have on this campus, we have to know it's a market from every angle, not just north, but northeast, southeast, southwest. So every morning, HBCUs got to get up and be running. Because if we're going to stay, I think our theme is thrive or inspire. If we're going to thrive or inspire, our extensions is one of the extensions of YMTF and focuses bringing consultants back on this campus, like Career Services doing, to make sure we are stressing the importance of the viability and the visibility of HBCUs. So it's not anything that I would have against predominantly white institutions. I am of the preference that we do it better, because we train students, and that's a sense of competition. I wouldn't in no way tell another team they better than us. Not in a competitive environment, but I respect that other team and the work they put in to get to the point to play me. So I think that's the role of us as HBCUs. And by the way, me and two other of my colleagues, we study higher education at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, so we get it from both ends. We work here in the daytime, and we bring very real practice to our studies in the evening.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. I have another question to panel going to Excel here. What are some typical challenges facing a student who does not prepare himself for the changes occurring in most companies?
One of the most prevalent challenge is if there's no opportunities for you. If you're not preparing yourself, there will not be any opportunities for you. And that's the bottom line, because if I own the company, or the fact that I run my department as if I own that particular department, again, when I'm looking at people and I'm trying to hire people, I have to look for people who's prepared to come in and step in and do that particular job, because at the end of the day, it's what we do will impact millions of other people that's out there in the public. So again, understanding if you're not prepared, you have to be prepared.
I'd like to add a couple of comments. If you students, and I've said it in some of my classrooms, so bear with me if you've already heard this. If you're preparing for today, you're already a step behind out of the blocks. You have to prepare for the future. As I told some of the classes, Japanese students must learn 3 to 4 languages by the time they're 7 years old. They already know this is a global world. We struggle many times speaking just English and Ebonics. So that lets you know something. You must. People in IT, you can't be studying just basic Windows and basic IT stuff. You need to be studying stuff, because technology changes, as you know, every 2-3 months. New technology, new software, new programs. So you got to be visionary and preparing yourself for the future, not just for today.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Putting another question out, kind of a follow-up to that last one. Recognizing that a lot of students may be online or go to trade school. Isn't said that historically black colleges and universities, while enrolling only about 20% of our African American students, what is the approximate percentage of all bachelor degrees in the United States awarded to African American students by historically black colleges and universities? A, 20%, B, 25%, C, 33%, or D, 50%? In the far back, sir?
33%.
33% is correct. Thank you. So So that's saying a third of the degrees given out to black students are coming from historically black colleges and universities. My next question, Mr. Massey. Is there a double standard for black males in today's workforce as it pertains to work performance? Are black males held to a higher standard because of former and maybe even more current stereotypes?
Well, there may be a yes and a no to that. It depends on which company or organization that you're working for. But we have to go back some in time when black males may have been the first employee into an all-white company or a company that didn't have more of the same. There may have not been images for them to compare to. So there could be some stereotypes and those type of things. But one of the things that I would challenge you all, because they still may exist, instead of you focusing and being fearful about whether someone is stereotyping you or judging you based on the way that you look, I would challenge you more so to understand the rules of the game. And what I mean by that is understanding that the job or company that you sign up for or that you agree to work for, you need to know something about that organization. You know, however they look at you, that doesn't matter. You're in. So once you're in, learn the game, learn the rules, learn those unwritten rules. Establish for yourself a mentor that can show you the ropes, so to speak, so that you don't make any mistakes. Because it's a rough world out there. It's very competitive, very competitive. And what you don't want to do is accompany yourself with someone that's going to cause you to fail. So learn the rules. And what I mean by that, I mean the do's and not to do's. Make sure that you're dressed appropriately. Make sure that you're speaking clearly. You know, you can't always just keep it real. You can keep it real and lose your job. And that's what it's about. That's what it's about at the end of the day. So you have to ask yourself that question: what things am I willing to live with? And that can kind of help you to focus more so about surviving in the job and excelling in the job that you're in, as opposed to just surviving and trying to prevent someone to attack you based on a stereotype.
Lieutenant Bowers, you make a comment on that, please.
Yeah, I'm going to speak obviously from my experiences, and the first part of this is easy for me when it says, is there a double standard? Absolutely. The standard exists. You have to perform at a high level. I experienced it, and I'll give you the very, very quick example. When I came into the Department of State Police as a trooper, you had to have 5 years in to get promoted to sergeant. So my little clique that I ran with in the department, for lack of a better word, we were preparing for the exam. And rumor was that there was a complete copy of the exam that existed. I think the chief could probably relate to this. A complete copy of the exam that existed, and I didn't believe it. I said, that can't be the case. That exam is locked away somewhere in Lansing in a vault, and no one can get to it. It's impossible. It's guarded. And I got a call. I took the exam the very first time. One of the questions on the exam, I'm going to speed this up. One of the questions on the exam was, at a safe burglary, what's the common evidence that's found at a safe burglary? Hopefully I can give you the answer to the options. One was pry marks on the safe from an instrument, footprints, fingerprints. And so I'm thinking, you know, the answer, I was a 7-year troop at the time, the answer's got to be pry marks, because you're prying on the safe to get it open. The answer was footprints. Why? Because when they break a safe open, papers are all over the floor. So as they leave, they walk on the papers, and you got a good footprint. Now, the only way you would know something like that is that you had to test, because we were never taught that. We were taught, the only thing we taught this reference to trace evidence was pry marks. I'll fast forward this. Then I get a call as I'm taking the test for the second time, because the first time I took it, I got a 70, and they promoted only 85 and above. I got a call from one of my buddies in Detroit. He said, hey, Benny, you got to come over. I got a package for you. And when I went over, he says, I got some study material for you. And I opened up the study material, And when I read it, I thought a satellite was watching me, because basically what I had in my hands was looked like just like the exam. And what they were recall questions where guys had gotten together after they left the exam, a certain group of guys, and you were responsible for remembering questions 1 through 10. Maybe I shouldn't share this with you. You were responsible for remembering questions. You know what I'm saying? You were responsible for remembering questions 11 through 20. You were responsible for remembering questions 21 through 30. And after the test exam was done, this group of guys over the years had gotten together in the parking lot immediately and wrote the questions down. So now you got the complete exam, and they never shared that with anyone else in the department outside of a certain group of individuals. So we struggled to get a promotion. Because you could study, we had 150 orders, and you had to memorize all of them to practically get an 85 on the exam. So that piece of information was set aside for only a certain group of individuals. And then after you got promoted to sergeant, like I did, they thought it was perceived that you cheated. And they've been cheating all along. Does this make sense? I hope it does. What you've got to recognize, because it does exist, this double standard, and I don't want you to walk out here blind. I don't think anyone else is going to want you to do that either. When you recognize it, make sure that you work your way through it. The only thing that's worked for me is that I've worked my way through it. I was sharing with the group earlier that one of the best things that's helped me after I've retired, after 25 years as a command officer with the state police, one of the best trained police agencies in the country, is my education. I was just sharing with my frat brother, this one to my left, that I just got a job offer today. I've been retired for 3 weeks, and it was based on my education. I got a master's degree in education. My education worked itself through all of the biases, all of the set-asides for certain individuals. When it came time for a promotion and you got a certain amount of points for having a bachelor's degree, guess what? This little poor boy from Ben Harbor had a bachelor's degree. When you got the maximum amount of points for a master's degree for a promotion, guess what? This little poor boy from Ben Harbor had a master's degree. So what I'm suggesting to you, don't go into this workforce to realize that the playing field is totally level. To some degree it is, but to some degree it's not. Mentors. Don't be surprised if your mentor doesn't look like you. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to. Which kid? This gentleman here from Walmart, I was sharing with you earlier that the commitment he makes to come here every year, and I don't mean to single him out, but I'm going to, and not be a graduate of UAPB. And he has all of these folk that work for him. He knows kids on this campus by their first name. He's not going to leave today, I think, until he sees one of them. He talked about that. I mean, that's a huge commitment. Now, that's a mentor that doesn't look like anybody, 95% of the folk in this room, but that's a mentor. So don't be blind by that, because that's what I look for, and that's the stumbling block I experienced, looking for a mentor that looked like me, that had my background, and it wasn't necessarily the case. So be smarter than I am, okay? I was, rather. Thank you.
Mr. Allen?
Okay, I'll try and make a couple of quick comments without being repetitive. I don't really know if this double standard is alive or well or whatever, but I will say this. There's some real things happening in the workplace. I'm going to speak about the federal government with the Department of Interior that has 12 different agencies under its umbrella. Danny can speak to what Social Security has, but I'm going to tell you, black males are diminishing. They're not being hired at the same rate. I can't put my finger on it if it's stereotypes or what. Selecting officials are willing to take a risk more with black women and other women of color rather than black males. I have challenged Department of Interior officials before I retired. It wasn't a popular thing to do, but I did it because they tried to say that they had a recruitment program to focus on diversity. I said, let me do E equals MC squared. Black males are not being retained. They're not being recruited. So how are you going to have a diversity that includes black males if they're not being recruited at the rate they're exiting? Pretty soon, you won't have enough black folks to make a Tarzan movie. So my point to them is that you really need to look at what's going on. And there are some studies as we talk, White House initiatives about black males in the federal workplace. Some of it is your fault. Some of it ain't your fault. But I tell the classrooms when I went in there as a YMTF consultant, you need to be working on things that knock down stereotypes, to change that image. I like the gentleman saying you got to work through it. You got to persevere. Communication skills, verbally, and writing skills. You can't survive even if you're going to be a sanitation engineer. And I'm so tired of students that come in there that can't write a sentence with punctuation marks. Mediocrity is inexcusable and not acceptable. So I'm telling you, raise the bar for yourself.
And I want to follow up one real quick point in reference to law enforcement. Once again, my little personal survey. How many of you all in here have had a bad experience with law enforcement? Just raise your hand. You too, huh? Oh, me too. I guess I raised my hand. Okay, you can put your hands down now, unless you want to put both of them up. But no, you don't have to do that. But my little personal research there is just to say that in reference to diversity and recruitment for law enforcement, if you had an interest, if you had a strong interest in becoming a law enforcement officer, from the FBI to the Michigan State Police, or state police, I should say, or local law enforcement, or county, or campus police, the opportunity is there. It's just not, we're just not recruiting. We just don't have minority men specifically that have an interest in law enforcement. Primarily is the reason we just demonstrated. You've had a bad experience with law enforcement. So why would you want to be a part of an organization that you've had a bad experience with? Now, you probably haven't had a bad experience with Walmart or AT&T or these other organizations, but law enforcement, a bad experience. So why would I want to be a part of that? So what I would also want you to be conscious of is work through that. If you feel as if I just don't want to, my son doesn't like police officers. And he's been, I mean, that's my baby. I mean, he's been a part of my life all of his life. He says, I don't like cops, Dad. I says, look who you're talking to, son. I'm a cop. He said, I just don't like cops, man. Yeah, you get the uniform on and you become, Barney Fife. I said, do I look like Barney Fife? No, not you, Dad, but I just don't like cops. So that being said, consider that of something as an example. I know I made fun of it, but an example of working through something. It's a great opportunity, a great option for taking care of yourself, your family, making things right. I was asked a question 25 years ago, why do you want to become a police officer? And my response was, I want to help somebody. And I said it just like that. And my career has dictated that I've been put in a position in the state of Michigan, that I've worked in every urban community. And some of you all that attended your classes, you've heard me say this. I worked in every urban community in the state of Michigan. When the governor of the state of Michigan needed someone to go into a community to build a relationship with African-American folk and law enforcement, she called me. Well, she called the director of the state police, and he placed me in that community to build those relationships. So I say all that to say it's a great opportunity for you if you have. I look at the young man that's looking at me like this. I don't want to be the police. I don't even like you. So I know I'm just kidding. But it's a great opportunity. The benefits are great. I retired at 53 years old. Some guys are retiring at 46. So please consider it. And what it'll do for you is that it'll provide some credibility to your community. To when they see you in the community as a person that's concerned about making their community safe. Okay, next.
All right, thank you for that. My next question, again, look for the first hand. Writer John Simons, in referring to a national study on sports, wrote that 66% of all African American males between the ages of 13 and 18 believe that they can earn a living playing professional sports. We're going to get back to you on that. What does he say the odds of that actually happening are? A, 10,000 to 1, B, 5,000 to 1, C, 100,000 to 1, or D, 50,000 to 1? Man, right here, saw your hand. C. C, that is 100,000 to 1. You are correct. And I'm actually going to ask Brother Bowles over here to comment on that belief. 100,001 is some pretty hard odds. And we all know at some time everybody wanted to be like Mike. So,
and that's unfortunate because I wanted to be like Julius Erving, I guess. You was Julius. I was Julius Irving. And I guess I gave the example earlier that playing college football here, that unlike it is now, from what I understand, because I've attended a lot of the UAPB games, the games they would have in St. Louis and Chicago and other places over the years, and even homecoming. I would always ask the question on the other team, the opposing team, who's going into the league. A couple of times I came here, I think we had a player here that was going in the league. I think it was a tight end, and then we had in the draft, and it was one or two. But then on the other team, it may not be. And I think Mississippi Valley, one year I came nobody. I would say to you that 1976 to 1980, every year we played someone in the SWAC, and I shared this earlier with you, there was someone that was going in the draft. Not like I did as a free agent. The last day of the draft, got a call from the Oilers. Someone was going, they expected to go in the first 3 rounds. That doesn't happen anymore. And to think that, I guess this week, unless we have someone around campus that's 6'9", that's dribbling the ball like Michael Jordan, he's not going to get drafted this year either. It just doesn't happen. So you got to get that misconception out of your mind that you can go from this level of playing sports into the draft. They just don't look at us for some reason like they did years ago. I think the reason is because the players are they're getting the option to go to Division I schools. I believe that's the reason, and I'll take more discussion around that, but I believe that's the reason. We're just not getting those athletes. They're getting the opportunity to go to Division I schools more so than they did when I was playing. When I played ball here, we had, my freshman year, we had 2 guys that were going in the draft on the team, going in the draft, not free agency, in the draft. That was 30-something years ago. Ken Smith he was picked to go in the first 3 rounds. He was a wide receiver, 6'3", about 225 pounds. Didn't go to class, but he was going in the draft. Definitely going in the draft. Ron McCall, my roommate, he went in the 3rd round to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Got a call the day of the draft. Pittsburgh Steelers, 3rd round. And it just doesn't happen as frequently as it used to. So I guess that's all I can add to that. You guys you are way ahead compared to where I was when I was here. You're so much further ahead of the game than I was. I wouldn't be in this forum 30-some-odd years ago. It would be just a certain amount of guys that were socially conscious about their education, and I wasn't one of them. But I turned out okay. So you guys are much further. And I was sharing with my good friend earlier. He said, what do? I said, if I had your mentality at 21, 22 years old, when I was 21, 22 years, if I had his mentality, I'd be a millionaire. I'd be a millionaire. I mean, he's focused. He's focused on his education. He's got a decision to make whether or not he wants to stay in the Marine Corps or go out and work in the private sector with a degree. No babies, not married. I was married at 22 with a baby. I just happened to marry a wife that ended up being very, very successful. But that's what I'd like to add to that.
That was a nice safe answer. All right, gentlemen, what we like to do at this point, I'm hoping you all have been pondering some things. You got some things going on in your head. We have a microphone directly here in front of me to my right, also to the far left. If you have some questions for the pamphlets, comments that you'd like commented on, please at this time make your way up to the microphone and present your statement or question. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know who you are when you go to the microphone.
All right. My name is Dexter Lyles. I'm a junior, criminal justice major, Marine Corps, Group 10. Look out for us. My question is, and I've asked this question to a few of you guys already. We talk about a degree being an entrance into the door. We talk about getting an education. We talk about, the really general basic things that we need to do to get a job. But as degree, you guys being in retrospect, already on the other side, retired, about to retire, very successful individuals in the workforce, what is the one thing you look back on and say, man, had I done that, I would have been 10 times more successful than I am now, or man, had I done that, things would have been so much better than what they are now. What is that one thing that you think that we might need to know right now that can help us with that?
I like to take that one. I've been talking about that all week. Coming back to knowing what I know now, first thing I would have done is become more organized and time conscious and use my time a little bit more wisely. I would have had my classes from 8 to 12, which would have given me ample amount of time to study in the afternoon and have the evenings to myself. Instead, my classes were spread out all throughout the day. And I know in some courses you didn't have a choice, depending on the availability. But my courses were spread out all throughout the day, so I never really established any consistency. I never really established any type of good habits. So as a result, I was just kind of just going through the motions. So I would have been a little bit more organized, and I would have been more task oriented. I just kind of went with the flow. It's a party this weekend, cool, I'm there. No questions asked. Got a test on Monday, I'll figure it out Sunday night. It was really I was just going with the flow. Had I been more organized, more disciplined, I would have been much better off. Much better off. It's not too late. Fortunately, the light bulb came on at some point, but I wish it would have came on sooner, and I would have took more advantage of the opportunities that are on campus and the other things that are available.
Hey, where you
We
going?
understand the class is still going on, so you guys handle your business. We appreciate your attendance.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Could I add to that question? That was a good question. I wasted a lot of my talents. I was a basketball jock. Tried out for the Olympics, junior college All-American basketball. I thought I was Mr. Big Man on campus. I had 1,000 women on campus. I was like Tiger Woods. And unfortunately, I didn't realize that I had the talent to be more than an athlete until into my junior year. And I let the coaches brainwash me that all I need to worry about is just play ball. And it took me a long time to realize it. And had I figured it out my freshman and sophomore year, I think I could have excelled more than what I've accomplished. And I go back and I have those regrets. So those of you that are not challenging yourself now on campus, you're wasting God-given talents because you could be somebody. You could be sitting next to somebody that could have the cure for sickle cell. There's someone in here that could be a Nobel Peace Prize nominee. You never know. But again, if you don't challenge yourself now, you may never do it. But I woke up because I got drafted into Vietnam, got married my junior year, and I said, let's forget this pro dream and figure out on how I'm going to earn a living. But by that time, it was the end of my junior year. Don't be like me.
Again, if I can add to that, just again, we have a wonderful opportunity right now while you're here at UAPB. Take advantage of the courses, and the point is, what would I have done differently? Just like some of these other guys, I probably would have been a little bit more organized. I would have studied a little bit harder, and not just took a class lightly just because I had to take a class. Or I probably would have taken a little bit more difficult class that I let somebody else talk me out of taking that class because rumors are that this instructor is very difficult. You don't know until you get in that class and understand that material, because that material might be something that little flicker that's going to say, okay, I need to go down that path because that's something that's just lighting up something in my spirit to say, hey, I really like that. So again, don't misconstrue some of this information. Don't take these classes lightly. You may respect your instructors or you may not, but the point of it is you paying for it in some capacity. You're either paying for it now or you're going to pay for it later, because when you get in a position, you're going to be saying, like, man, I wish I'd have studied in that class because Dr. So-and-so covered that and I knew that exactly. And it'll come to you, believe me. You will know when you missed a boat and you're in your professional career and you remember, man, we studied that in class 20 years ago. Amen. You don't want to say, I wish I had did something. Right. Yeah, you really don't want to do that.
I think one of the other consultants had a comment he wanted to add to that. You can introduce yourself, please, sir.
How you doing? I'm Donald Williams with Murphy Oil Corporation. I think one thing that I kind of regret a little bit when I was going to school, I think I would have managed funds a little bit better. I know when refund checks drop here, it's like a national holiday. A lot of kids get their money, blow it, go buy new cars, rims, clothes. We talked about assets and liabilities. Invest some of your money. into some things that actually can grow mutual funds, assets, CDs, and different things like that. So when you get out of school, instead of having a whole bunch of debt, because like I said, in 6 months, they want their money back. You know, instead of having a whole bunch of debt and misusing student loans and things like that, you can go into the work world and, you know, be comfortable, because if you don't pay the government their money back, they're going to take their money back.
Right.
You know, so
If I can just add to that, you talk about assets and investments and stuff like that. That's a good way to have your money, the money that you have now and you put aside, have that working for you. So when you're retiring or you're at an age where you can retire, you know, if you manage that properly, it can continue to work for you. And then you don't have to be at 65 and 70 working in a job that just to make some ends meet or just to have health care or something like that. You know, use those funds that you have, because they can work for you as well.
I'd like to add on what I would definitely do differently. And like I said, I'm one of those guys that went to one of those traditionally white universities. I was up in Fayetteville and graduated from it. And I appreciate the diploma I got. But had I had it to do over again, I honestly would have come here first. There was not an engineering program at UAPB at the time I graduated, but I could have handled my basic courses here, where that transition from high school to college, where I needed to develop some habits I didn't have, the study habits I didn't have. I think that I would have maturated much better here with the way the instructors were at the time, the class sizes as compared to what I walked into, the culture here, the family here. You had teachers that knew my mom and knew my dad, so I had to be right about it. That was the reason I got out of here, because I was trying to get away from folk who knew me so I could establish myself and do all that. Good idea, bad result. It took me a while to do some things the right way. Had I stayed here, I think I would have blossomed a lot sooner. Things would have gone a little more smoothly for me. Then I could have, after I'd grown a little more, transferred out to go finish the program in which I was looking for, having my basics done here, and I would have been that much better founded. My foundation would have been that much stronger.
If I could just follow up with that in reference to what I would have done different, without question, I'll be very, very honest with you and candid with you, because I don't think there's anything you can do to me right now. And that is, if I had an opportunity to do things over, I was a jock. I was a big man on campus, I thought, in my own mind. I would allow myself to interact with other organizations. To develop my communication skills. That is so critical. I watch guys in my profession that have the gift of gab. And you know what I mean by that. I mean, they can sell, I shouldn't say, well, I'm not gonna say that, but they do a very good job of illustrating what their point. Communication was critical, is gonna be critical for you when you leave and go into the private sector. If you can't generate your thoughts, articulate your thoughts to where it's gonna be professional, and I may not do a very good job of it because I'm just a cop, but I know what the importance of you and how people may perceive you coming from a particular institution, and you're not able to communicate. So in retrospect, without question, I wish I'd have been a part of another organization other than my fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi, which grew me after I left school, because I was put into leadership roles at the alumni level. But while I was in school, I was a captain of the football team my junior, senior year, but I never stood up and gave a rah-rah speech. I just said, let's go, man. You know who we're playing against, let's go. But to see some of you all stand and speak, and you're working at your diction, it's critical in the private sector. Your writing is important, I agree, without question, because sometimes that's the first impression. But when that person sits in, we talked about interviewing yesterday, hours and hours on interviewing. And I watched some of my schoolmates stand and speak. I said, that's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to get past the way they communicate in a formal setting in reference to an interview. Does anybody know what I'm talking about in here? You guys are looking at me like I'm on the moon or something. But this is reality. If you're not able to sit and talk to people, and for example, as professional as my frat brother is to my left, or my frat brother to my right, these people are professionals in their environment. I'm not going to be in a position to hire you. The jobs that they're offering me right now is to oversee stuff, and it's arresting people later on down the road. You know, but these people are responsible for hiring folk, and when it happens, you're going to be a representation of these guys, and they're not going to have someone that they can't articulate themselves. They have bad eye contact. Short story. It's a sergeant that worked for me last year, James Kemp. I'll say his name because I shared this with him personally. He went for an interview, working on his master's degree, African American, trying to get promoted to the rank of lieutenant. He went for an interview, and he interviewed, and the response I got from his interview was that the folk that interviewed him, the interview panel, said he never gave him eye contact. He never looked at him. Unbelievable nervous habit he has to look at the ground when he speaks. He has a very, very difficult time of looking someone in the eye. He's articulated it all out. He knows his information, but he won't give you eye contact. And he knows it. So now he was working it. So I say all that because I want this to be a candid conversation from all of us, and specifically me, because I'm an outsider to some degree, because I'm not in the private sector per se yet. But I want you to know what my experiences have been. And UAPB, with that experience alone, if I had an opportunity to be a part of the choir, I mean, I can hold a note. I'm not a solo artist or anything. But to that group, I mean, on campus, they were energetic. They were different people. They weren't all jocks. They weren't all, worried about the next game. We got to lift weights. We got to memorize plays. Douglas Hall was an all-football dormitory. All-football dormitory. No one else lived in that dorm but football players. Zero. The girls, when they walked across campus, they had to go towards the bell tower. They couldn't walk in front of Douglas Hall. But that was a shame. But that's what happened. They couldn't walk in front of Douglas Hall because we harassed them, because half of us weren't going to class. But if I could change some things, you're talking about, oh man, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. I probably would have been the keynote speaker the other night, because I would have been much more successful than I am now. If I could just open my horizon. I shared with the group the other day, I said, to work on this, just go up to folk you normally wouldn't talk to. Homeboy looks a little weird. Go up and have a conversation with him. Someone looks a little different than you. Start a conversation with them. What that does, it creates an environment within yourself that you become more comfortable talking to people that you're not comfortable talking to, if that makes sense. All right? That's what I would change.
You got another question?
Yes, I am Keith Smith, the graduating senior computer science major. And my question is for everybody on the panel, including you, Mr. Blakely. When we leave here, we are entering into a professional and mature environment. And I want to know from everybody on the panel, how do you go about handle working along homosexual individuals in the working environment? Because that is very prevalent now in today's society. So how do you go by handling yourself when working along with somebody of those rights?
It better not be any different.
Right.
If you want to keep your job. I mean, we getting candid here. And I don't think there's anybody in this panel that's going to disagree with me. It better not be any different, and it should never be a topic of conversation while you're there at all in the first place. That too will get you unemployed. You will have a whole lot of free time to think about that question.
That pretty much echoes the answer for all of us. I mean, that's almost, it's the same as discriminating against someone because of their race, or for disability, or male or female. You just don't touch that at all. The answer to that is you work with them, just like you would work with anyone else.
That's right. Being an EEO manager, I do training on that. It doesn't matter what that person is. You got a job description that you got to do. You focus on your job and not on the person, because for some reason they might not like you. But you can't let what a person's difference is. Like, you may be in a different state. You might not like somebody from Tennessee. You from Arkansas. You can't go into the workplace and start dictating rules on your own, because they're not going to work. You'll be out of there. And when I get complaints like that people are complaining, like some guys, we had one incident where I guess, I don't know if they were if she claimed herself as being, but she was a lesbian, okay? This guy said, I can't stand that, and he gave her a term. I said, I'm gonna try to act like I didn't hear what you just said on the phone right quick. I said, I'm gonna try. I said, but I can't. I gotta write this down. He said, man, I don't believe you're going to do that, Jimmy. I said, no, I'm writing this down. I said, because you have just treated this person with a total disrespect. Now, you can have all kind of conversation you want to have. When you're on your own, you're in your own home, that's something you're paying for. But when your opinions start affecting the workplace, that's when the problem comes. And you would be out there quick, fast, and in a hurry. Because I got a whole lot of stacks of don't do's as far as harassment. And that can be construed as harassment if you continue to say something to that person or make some kind of little slight comment. Taking another step further, if a person says that and you hear it, you're accountable for it when it comes into the court being. Am I right, Lee?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes,
So
sir.
the best thing to do is remove yourself from it.
And that's a good question, because that is an issue that, you know, in government, I know in one aspect, you're starting to see laws where they're adopting same-sex marriage in certain states, and we've even received provisions on how to proceed with documentation as it pertains to it. So from a professional and personal, that's not my business. You know, we conduct policies, and I've worked with homosexuals before only because they've made themselves known to be homosexuals, and I can't treat them and won't treat them any differently.
Good point.
Ronnie Grice, Kansas State University Division of Public Safety. I've been in the law enforcement community now for 32 years. And following up what Jimmy said, get that out of your mind. There have been good administrators in law enforcement who have actually lost their job because they did not jump in and handle complaints in a timely manner. My opinion, as long as they got my back covered, I don't care what they are. You can't even ask that question. Don't even think about it, because you can put a whole organization at jeopardy just from that train of thought. Just from thinking that way, you can jeopardize a career, a company, an administrator, an executive, just because it's how you feel about the situation. And once it becomes known, you have set yourself up for failure, and you're going to be a target because of just the way that you think. Take that completely out. Look what has just happened in the military. Guys don't care as long as they got my back covered. So just don't think about it, just get it out, because you'll never see that question on an application. Are you gay, are you lesbian, are you homosexual? Nobody cares anymore. And like he said, now we're getting into the realm of same-sex marriage, where you actually have to have the same type of insurance plan and the same benefits for those individuals. It does not make any difference. We are living in a different society, and it is changing every day. We have to be able to adapt with those changes, but if you don't make that an issue, it won't be one. And that's just from the uniform side.
That was a good question, though, to get that out there.
Well,
I'm Peyton Parker. I'm a freshman here on campus. And first of all, I want to thank you for showing up, because I feel like in the African American community, there is a mentality that to make money, to be successful, we have to play sports, we have to be a rapper, we have to be involved in something like that, but not business. And I would like to ask, how is it that more African American males can see this? And is it something that you all can do, or is it more that we can do? Because I feel like this being a part of YMCF has changed my outlook on coming to a HBCU, and has changed my life and the dreams and goals that I have. So I just want to ask that question.
Jim, do you mind if I respond to that?
No, not at all.
I said I wasn't going to do these questions, but some things I got to touch on. I have been adamant about it since I got here. Ask. How do you see these brothers doing this? Ask. You got to go up to these brothers and ask the question. I've been coming to YMTF for over 10 years now. Been on panels, done all kinds of different things with YMTF, and it has amazed me, as often as we're in the classroom, the single question that we never get asked, and we may not answer, but you don't ask us to find out, how much money do you make? Nobody has ever asked me, as long as I've been coming, how much money I make. I've been told I'm successful. How do you know? You didn't ask me.
How much money you make?
Then let me ask you, is it about the money?
Yeah.
Overall, is it about the money too?
The point being, I hear you guys talking about the money you want to make. And it's not about how much I do make. What it's about is what you're trying to do. If money is your goal, if that's what you've defined for you as success, then that's a whole nother conversation we need to have. But if that's what you've defined as your success measure, can you achieve that in the field that you're looking in? Okay? That's something to really step, and if you can, what you have to do, can you go through the normal path, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, graduate, get this job, I'm gonna make this $1 million salary I want. I don't know a teacher with $1 million salary. It may be able to happen if you're a teacher who happens to write books on the side, has an entrepreneurial business, or goes on the lecture circuit. You've got something that you have to share that people are willing to spend money on. But the concept thing, I hear so many students talk about the money they want to make without asking anybody if they can make that kind of money in the field that you guys are going into. And the way to find out, ask somebody. Don't be afraid to ask. The worst answer you're gonna get is, I'm not comfortable sharing that right now, brother. But go look out on the internet at that job and see what they're saying about the salary range. But I said from the beginning of this, don't be afraid to ask questions. My takeaway for you guys was, be comfortable talking to these brothers up here and asking questions, because that's what we're here for. That's my piece. Go ahead.
Yeah, what was the question?
Go ahead.
Well, my name is Darnell Williams, and my major is finance, business and finance. And my question is, when you all was in college, did you all ever fear success? And if so, what did you do to overcome that?
I don't think most of us feared success because, I mean, we were here to be successful. In some cases, we didn't know what it was. We didn't know how to define what is success. And so as you're going through this process, you have to determine what does success look like for you. You know, for some people, it's a lot of money. Some people, it's a family with healthy children. Some people, it's a house or living at Hilton Head or whatever that is. You have to figure out what that is. Then how do you get there? You talking about, you majored in finance and different things like that. So, okay, we talked about investments and different things like that. So how do you manage that to be able to get to point B? Because understand, coming out of college, you will not, unless you're a pro first round or something like that, you won't be making the kind of money that you think you should be making. Because I was in a class today, this morning, and they asked me, well, what if you don't want the money that particular job offers? You know, and I said something like, it may offer whatever, 25 grand. Well, what if I don't want that? Well, guess what? We all got options. Because if you don't want it, somebody else will take it. But also you got to understand it's not necessarily about the 25 salary. It's about benefits, 401k, life insurance, and all those kinds of things, which you're looking at the money that you can spend, but also there's benefits that cost just as much. So your salary could be doubled and you just don't even know it.
I'd like to add to that. Can I change your question to say that I feared failure, not success? And I did everything in my power. I took my competitive spirit from athletics to the workplace. If you gave me an assignment, you were my boss, I was up all night to do a PowerPoint. I did research because when I presented the project, I wanted it to be my best. Because when I was on the court, if you beat me one time, I said, you ain't gonna beat me twice. So that's the way I handle success. I did not want to fail.
Let me just follow up with that real quickly. But you know, our situations, you got, this is a baby up on this panel over here. I mean, you got older gentlemen up here. I'm 53. 30 some odd years ago, what did success look like? compared to what it looks like today. Success 36 years ago, leaving Pine Bluff, was to have my degree and just go to work. My family would have thought I was successful. Being able to sustain myself, pay my own bills, that would have been successful in my household. If you're not socially conscious of what's going around you from an economic standpoint in 2012, that's the first thing, and all of us has touched on it, you won't be successful. If you don't know that the unemployment rate is at 1 point, if you don't know that you have a president that is conscious of what HBCUs need in reference to money, you may not be successful. And I'm not saying to vote either way, but this particular president knows what we need as far as funding. Those are the kind of things that make it different when you define success for you opposed to me. There were tons of jobs when I left college. There's jobs everywhere. I could have went any state and got a job teaching, anywhere. There's just not a lot of jobs anymore. The unemployment rate is, I think, is at 8 now, or a little bit below 9. It probably was at 5 or 6 when I was in college. And never thought about not having a job. That's something moving forward, to alter the question just a little bit, moving forward, you have to consider, maybe I won't be able to take a job in education. Maybe I have to take an assistant manager's position at Walmart. Maybe I have to take assistant manager's position at Sam's or one of these other companies and not go into my particular field because they're not hiring. The city of Detroit are laying off teachers. They're closing schools. Charter schools are coming in. If you're not thinking on a global sense of how you may have to change your plan, you may not be successful. So it's a big difference to where we give examples of defining success, in my opinion, and being very, very honest with you moving forward, that you have to look at your circumstances. What is the world offering you right now? What truly is the world offering? Not necessarily this country, but the world offering me as far as the benefits around being successful.
We have time for one more question.
My question is kind of more on a personal level. As far as young males coming into college, freshmen, I've even had this thought myself when I was a freshman. A lot of males come into school feeling like they don't really belong in the corporate world because of maybe circumstances. They might be back at home. What would you say to somebody who doesn't feel like they belong in the corporate world? You know, what could they do? What kind of encouragement would you give somebody who
saying
might be up and coming?
Are you saying they want to be in the corporate world?
No, what I'm saying as far as like, they might not feel like, a lot of people come, like, as far as like, I come from a neighborhood where it's a little bit of poverty going on, but I might feel like, there's other things I could do as far as, do you understand where I'm coming from?
I do know.
A lot of people come to school like, okay, yeah, I'm getting the education because my mom wanted me to come to school, or a lot of people don't feel like they belong in the corporate world. As I listened to Donald Williams speak, he wasn't exactly going towards. He didn't come to school looking, to jump straight into the corporate world after school. It was just, something that he was shaped as he went along. What would you say to somebody who came into school is not, felt like they didn't belong, they weren't shaped along the way to come to school and then finishing, jumping straight into the corporate world?
Let me try to take the first shot at that. First of all, a lot of times people's visions and dreams are somewhat narrow if their world might be just poverty. Hopefully, YMTF consultants coming to this campus will change that vision and the image that you can be what we are. Okay? Many of the people here, the consultants, come from the corporate world. So maybe that will ease and break down barriers of that person seeing, if you see it, you can be it. And I'm hoping that will change that.
Well, let me tell you, you said it's on a personal level. On a personal level, I don't think I'm ever going to let anybody shape me. I don't think I'm ever going to let anybody tell me where I do or don't belong. I'm going to decide that for myself. So saying that you feel like you don't belong somewhere, that's by your choice. You can change it. It's all about decisions. Everything that's going on here, man, everything you're going to hear from us while we're here, it boils down to a decision. It's going to be an action you're going to take or an action you're not going to take. It's going to be something you're going to do, something you're not going to do. The way you think or the way you're not going to think. It's gonna be your choice every time. You can look at the influences around you, and you can allow it to be some negative things outside of here, or you can allow that influence to be some positive things up here. But whichever it is, at the end of the day, it's gonna be a choice you make. So this is that no excuses campus. So that's not an excuse to me, brother, you know, and I'm not holding this against you. This is that candid brother love I'm hitting you with on this. Do what you think you want to do. Look at it. Make sure you know what it is you're talking about, what decisions you're having to make. Where corporate might not be for you, and that's cool. You might decide government is for you.
No, it was just a general question.
Well, okay, when you said personal, I'm like, I'm personal.
I mean, as far as, because a lot of people don't, a lot of freshmen and younger people that come in, they might not say it.
But it's so many options out here.
Right.
You know, you look at government organizations, you look at, you know, you go military, you want to get in the private sector. It's so many different things you can do. You know, you should be smiling the first minute you hit campus because your options are unlimited. The only thing that'll limit your options is you and your performance.
If I could add something to that, I understand where you're coming from. The freshmen or the young men that hit the campus may not even know what to look for. They're just here. Their parents said, you're going to college and you're going to UAPB. So what I would encourage you know, if you or know someone that has gone through that, I would encourage them to get involved immediately. Join an organization, SGA, go to career services, start surrounding yourself with the professionals on campus and just start to get involved. And that'll kind of expose you to some of the things that you may have not seen before arriving to college. Because it's a transition, and I get that, and I understand that. But it's kind of like what the brother was saying earlier. You know, you almost have to jump outside yourself and go introduce yourself to someone that doesn't look like you, or someone that you probably wouldn't hang with. You know, you have to force yourself into that environment. Even as I've progressed in my career, there have been moments where I go, oh man, do I really want to do this? You know, you have that moment, and then you just press through. You just do it because you know that's something that you want to do. So, you know, find out, search, look. Don't take no for an answer. Just move forward and get an understanding. Maybe you can be the one to start an organization to welcome those young men on campus, to expose them to the things that they should be thinking about as soon as they arrive.
I like that commercial that Magic Johnson does where he says, I'm comfortable in my own skin.
All right, gentlemen, I appreciate everyone's time. I think we've reached about the time we need to wrap it up. So on behalf of the YMTL program, we want to thank you all for coming out. Definitely want you coming around tomorrow. I believe at 11 o'clock at the Hyper Building, we're going to have Stephen A. Smith from ESPN Radio is going to be there. That's our speaker. We want you to get there on time so you get a good seat and pay attention to what the brother has to say. So once again, we want to put our hands together for our panel. Thank you very much, gentlemen.